In 1865, a Confederate cavalry officer named John Stith Pemberton lay wounded on a battlefield near Columbus, Georgia, sliced across the chest by a saber, his body torn in one of the war's final skirmishes. Pemberton survived, but the wound left him in chronic, unrelenting pain, and like thousands of veterans returning from that war, he turned to the era's most common remedy, morphine, a drug freely available and poorly understood. Before the war, Pemberton had trained as a pharmacist, running drugstores in Georgia and dabbling in patent medicines, the loosely regulated tonics and elixirs that promised to cure everything from headaches to nervous exhaustion. His morphine dependency deepened for years after the war, and Pemberton, as a trained chemist, became desperate to find something that could replace the drug without giving up the relief it provided his damaged body. This search wasn't unusual for the time. Morphine addiction among Civil War veterans was so widespread it earned a nickname, the soldier's disease, and pharmacists across the South were racing to formulate substitutes and cures. Pemberton's professional path led him toward a substance gaining popularity across Europe and America, coca leaf extract, the active compound in cocaine, marketed at the time as an energizing tonic rather than a dangerous narcotic. In 1885, Pemberton launched a product called Pemberton's French Wine Coca, blending coca leaf extract with alcohol and cola nut, inspired directly by a popular French tonic called Vin Mariani that celebrities and even a pope endorsed. His formula promised to cure nervousness, exhaustion, and notably morphine addiction itself, a claim that reflected Pemberton's own desperate hope that this new tonic might finally free him from the drug he depended on. The timing, however, worked against him. In 1886, Atlanta and Fulton County passed temperance legislation restricting alcohol sales, forcing Pemberton to reformulate his wine-based tonic into something that contained no alcohol whatsoever. Pemberton removed the wine and adjusted his recipe, adding sugar syrup, caramel coloring, and a proprietary blend of flavoring oils, while keeping the two active ingredients that would define the drink for the following century. Those two active ingredients were coca leaf extract, providing trace amounts of cocaine, and cola nut extract, providing caffeine, a genuinely stimulating combination that gave the new drink its name, Coca-Cola, blending both source ingredients directly. Pemberton's bookkeeper, Frank Robinson, coined the name and even designed the flowing script logo still recognizable today, choosing the two C's deliberately because he believed they would look striking together in advertisements. The first glass of Coca-Cola was sold on May 8, 1886, at Jacob's Pharmacy in Atlanta, mixed with carbonated water by accident, when a soda fountain worker diluted the syrup with fizzy water instead of plain. That accidental carbonation became permanent. Customers preferred the bubbly version, and Pemberton's tonic transformed from a still, syrupy medicine into the sparkling beverage that would eventually become recognized in nearly every country on Earth. Pemberton marketed Coca-Cola explicitly as a patent medicine, claiming it cured headaches, relieved fatigue, calmed nerves, and, in a striking irony given his own history, helped wean users off morphine and other opiate addictions. The cocaine content was minimal, even in the original formula, roughly a few milligrams per glass, but it was real, extracted from coca leaves imported specifically for this purpose, a legal and unremarkable ingredient at the time. Despite creating what would become one of history's most valuable brands, Pemberton never profited from Coca-Cola's future success. His morphine addiction worsened, his health declined, and his finances collapsed under mounting medical and business debts. Desperate for money, Pemberton began selling off pieces of his ownership in the Coca-Cola Formula and Company to various investors, splitting the rights among multiple parties who didn't fully trust or coordinate with one another. Among these investors was Asa Candler, an ambitious Atlanta businessman and fellow pharmacist who recognized Coca-Cola's commercial potential far more clearly than Pemberton himself, still trapped by his addiction, ever could. Candler methodically bought out the fragmented ownership stakes from Pemberton's family and partners, reportedly securing full control of the company and formula for approximately $2,300, a fraction of its true worth. John Pemberton died in August 1888, just 2 years after inventing his famous drink, impoverished and still struggling with morphine addiction, having sold away nearly all rights to the beverage bearing his original chemistry. He never lived to see Coca-Cola become a household name. His son, Charlie Pemberton, also battled addiction and briefly tried selling a competing version of the syrup before dying young, similarly overshadowed by the drink's rising empire. Asa Candler, meanwhile, transformed Coca-Cola from a regional pharmacy tonic into a nationally marketed, aggressively branded product, investing heavily in advertising, promotional giveaways, and a distribution network that expanded across the United States rapidly. Under mounting public concern about cocaine use in the early 20th century, and following new federal food and drug regulations, the Coca-Cola Company removed active cocaine content from the formula entirely by 1903, though trace amounts persisted briefly after. By 1929, the company had switched to using spent coca leaves, extracted of their cocaine alkaloids before processing, a workaround that allowed Coca-Cola to legally continue using coca leaf flavoring without the narcotic compound. That practice technically continues today. Coca-Cola still imports coca leaves through a specially licensed processing facility in New Jersey, extracting the flavor compounds while the cocaine alkaloids are separated out and sold to pharmaceutical companies. The full original formula remains one of the most famous corporate secrets in business history, locked in a vault, its precise recipe known to only a handful of executives, despite over a century of public curiosity. What began as a wounded veteran's desperate attempt to escape morphine addiction became, through a chain of accidental carbonation, opportunistic buyouts, and aggressive branding, one of the most recognized products ever created by human hands. Pemberton, the man who invented it, died broke and addicted, never witnessing the empire built on his chemistry, while the men who bought his formula for a few $1,000s built fortunes that would last generations. His story remains a stark reminder that inventing something extraordinary guarantees nothing about who ultimately profits from it, and that the addiction which drove him to create Coca-Cola never once released its grip on his own life.